6 Habits That Make a Woman Mysteriously Irresistible, Carl Jung. Have you ever wondered why some women seem to have unexplained magnetism? It's not about perfect beauty, sculptural body, or always being flawless. It's something deeper, almost magical. That kind of woman who walks into a room and everyone feels her presence, not because she screams for attention, but because there's a quiet force emanating from her. Carl Jung dedicated his life to deciphering the mysteries of the human soul and discovered something revolutionary. True seduction does not come from the outside, but from within. They are invisible habits, subtle patterns of behavior that awaken something primordial in the people around them. And here's the secret that no one tells. You already have that power. It is asleep, waiting to be activated. Most women never discover these habits because they are too busy trying to fit into external standards, seeking approval, hiding parts of themselves. But what if I told you that it's just the opposite that makes you unforgettable? In this video, I'm going to reveal the 8 habits that make you an irresistible enigma, according to Jung's depth psychology. Get ready to awaken your most authentic power. 1. She accepts her flaws. Jung believed that perfection is a dangerous illusion that takes us away from our true essence. He called shadow that part of us that we try to hide from the world and from ourselves. They are the defects, the insecurities, the fears, and everything that we deem unacceptable. The irresistible woman does not pretend that these parts do not exist. On the contrary, she looks inward and acknowledges every imperfect piece of herself with brutal honesty. When you try to hide your flaws, people feel it. There is an invisible tension in the air, as if you were wearing a mask that could fall off at any moment. This tension creates discomfort and drives away genuine connections. But when you simply admit to yourself that you're not perfect, something magical happens. You relax. And when you relax, everyone around you relaxes too. Accepting defects does not mean conforming or stopping evolving. It means to stop fighting the reality of what you are now. It means looking at that emotional scar, that unresolved trauma, that destructive pattern, and saying, this is also a part of me, not with false pride, but with deep understanding. Jung said that we can only transcend what we first accept completely. The irony is that the more you try to look flawless, the more ordinary you become, because everyone is trying to do the same. But the woman who has the courage to show her imperfections naturally and without drama immediately stands out. It is real in a world of facades, and reality always beats fantasy when it comes to true human connection. Think about how many times you've forced yourself to act a certain way because you thought that's what others expected. How many times have you hidden an opinion, suppressed an emotion, or pretended to be something it wasn't? Each time you do this, you lose a piece of your authenticity. And authenticity is the secret ingredient of inexplicable magnetism. Accepting one's defects releases tremendous energy that was previously trapped in trying to maintain appearances. This energy is transformed into presence. You stop wasting mental strength worrying about what others think and start fully inhabiting each moment. People perceive this unconsciously. They feel that you are truly present, not only physically but emotionally available. In addition, when you accept your own shortcomings, you automatically develop more compassion for the shortcomings of others. This makes you a more welcoming, less judgmental, and infinitely more attractive person. No one wants to be close to those who are always pointing out flaws or creating a standard that is impossible to achieve. But everyone wants to be around those who offer a safe space to be imperfect. Jung noted that the most fascinating people in history have never been the perfect ones. They were those who integrated their contradictions, who recognized their dual nature, and lived fully. The irresistible woman understands this deeply. She doesn't waste energy fighting parts of herself. Instead, it uses that energy to create, love, grow, and live intensely. He knows how to use silence. We live in a society obsessed with noise. Everyone wants to talk, give their opinions, explain themselves, fill every second of stillness with words. But Jung understood that silence is not emptiness. It is plenitude. It is in silence that mystery dwells, and mystery is absolutely magnetic. The woman who masters the art of silence possesses a power that most do not even imagine exists. We're not talking about being quiet out of shyness or insecurity. This is retraction, not silent presence. We're talking about consciously choosing when to speak and when to simply be, of not feeling the compulsive need to fill uncomfortable breaks with nervous chatter, to let your actions and your energy speak louder than 1,000 hasty words. When you talk too much, you give away your entire game at once. There is nothing left to discover, no layer to unravel. People lose interest quickly because they already know the whole story. But when you dose your words, when you keep certain thoughts to yourself, you create a space of curiosity. People naturally want to know more, to understand what goes on behind those quiet eyes. Silence also demonstrates something powerful: self-control. We live in an era of instant reactivity, where everyone needs to respond immediately to everything. The woman who manages to pause before reacting, who does not feel obliged to justify herself to every question, projects an impressive inner strength. It is not driven by external impulses. She has a firm center within her. Jung talked about the importance of introspection, of diving into the depths of one's own unconscious. This only happens in silence. When you cultivate moments of genuine stillness, you connect with parts of yourself that the constant noise keeps hidden. And this deep connection is reflected externally. You start to have a different quality of presence, denser, more real. Another fascinating aspect of silence is that it forces other people to make all the effort of communication. Instead of you chasing after you, trying to keep conversations alive or prove your worth through words, others need to come to you. They need to ask better questions, pay more attention, invest energy to get to know you. This completely inverts the power dynamics in relationships. But beware, silence is not passivity. You can be perfectly silent and yet completely assertive. The silence of a centered woman is not submission, it is choice. She knows that her words carry weight precisely because she does not waste them. When she speaks, people listen. When she decides to share something personal, it becomes precious because it's rare. Practice observing more and commenting less. Let others reveal themselves while you simply witness. You'll be surprised at how much people share when they find someone who actually listens, rather than just waiting for their turn to speak. And in that process of deep listening, you learn about human nature in a way that no book could teach. Silence also protects your inner peace. When you don't feel compelled to react to every provocation, every contrary opinion, every drama of others, you preserve your energy for what really matters. And this preserved energy is transformed into a sparkle in the eyes, a lightness in the walk, an aura that people cannot ignore. True magnetism isn't about looks, it's about energy. Before you open your heart again, learn how to protect it and understand what your patterns reveal. Discover the Jung method. Link pinned in the first comment. 3. It has its own life. Jung was emphatic about the importance of individuation, the process of becoming who you really are, separate from collective expectations and outside influences. The truly irresistible woman understands this viscerally. It does not build its existence around another person. She has projects, dreams, passions, and a life that remains vibrant regardless of whether she is in a relationship or not. There is an abyssal difference between sharing your life with someone and making someone your whole life. When you put another person at the center of your existence, two horrible things happen simultaneously. You lose yourself, and you become suffocating for the other. No one wants to carry the weight of being someone's only source of happiness. It's an oppressive responsibility that kills any attraction. Having your own life means having interests that ignite you from within. It can be a job you love, a hobby that challenges you, deep friendships that nurture you, causes you believe in. These are the elements that make you interesting. When you have something to talk about besides the relationship, when your eyes shine, when you mention something you're passionate about, you naturally become magnetic. The woman without a life of her own is always available, always waiting, always ready to drop everything for crumbs of attention. And paradoxically, the more available you are, the less value people place on your presence. It is the basic law of supply and demand applied to human relations. What is abundant loses value. What is scarce becomes precious. But when you're genuinely busy building your own life, something fascinating happens. You don't have time for emotional games. He has no patience for relationships that drain his energy. Naturally, you set higher standards and attract people who really add to it. because there's only room in your life for what's truly valuable. Jung believed that we can only relate fully when we are complete individuals. Two halves do not form a healthy whole, they form dependence. But two wholes who choose to walk together create something extraordinary. When you have your own life, you don't need the other to feel complete. You want the other, and that's a fundamental difference that changes everything. In addition, having personal projects gives you something much greater than attraction. It gives you purpose. And a woman with purpose radiates an unmistakable energy. She knows where she's going. You are not adrift waiting for someone to give direction to your life. This clarity of intent is mesmerizing because most people live lost, not knowing exactly what they want. Your dreams and ambitions also serve as a natural filter. Those who don't respect your goals, who try to make you feel guilty for having priorities beyond the relationship, immediately reveal themselves as incompatible. You don't have to waste years figuring this out. Your full life works as a detector of people who will really add up. Another powerful benefit. When you have your own life, you come home with stories to tell. Each one brings new experiences, different learning, and this keeps the relationship alive and dynamic. You have a subject. They have news. They don't fall into the deadly trap of routine where there is nothing else interesting to share. And 4. No approval needed. This is perhaps the most transformative habit of all. Jung spent years studying how the collective unconscious pressures us to conform, to seek external validation, to shape our identity based on the reflection we see in the eyes of others. The magnetically irresistible woman broke these chains. She is not constantly seeking approval because she has already approved herself. Think about how much time and energy you've spent worrying about what others will think. That outfit you stopped wearing. That dream he didn't pursue. That opinion he swallowed. Each time you betray yourself to gain a nod of external approval, you weaken your own presence. And people feel it, even if unconsciously. The need for approval always puts you in an inferior position. You are asking permission to exist the way you are. He is implicitly saying that the opinion of the other is worth more than his own. But when you operate from a place of self-approval, the dynamic changes completely. You're not asking for anything. You are simply being. And people notice this difference in energetic posture immediately. This doesn't mean being arrogant or indifferent to feedback. It means having an internal axis so strong that external criticism does not destabilize you. You can listen, consider whether it makes sense, and then consciously decide whether to incorporate or not. Your identity does not shake with every wind of other people's opinions. You know who you are, regardless of what people say about you. The woman who doesn't need approval also doesn't waste time trying to convince anyone of her worth. It is not selling, defending, or justifying its existence. This is incredibly appealing because it demonstrates a self-confidence that cannot be faked. Either you have it or you don't. And when you do, it shines through every gesture, every choice, every word. Jung observed that the obsessive search for external approval is a symptom of disconnection with the true self. When you don't know who you really are, you need others to tell you. But when you do the deep work of self-knowledge, when you dive into the layers of your own unconscious and emerge with clarity about your essence, external approval becomes irrelevant. Another crucial aspect. Not seeking approval frees you to take risks. You can try new things, fail publicly, change direction without fear of judgment. This freedom fuels accelerated growth. While others are paralyzed by the fear of making mistakes and being criticized, you are experimenting, learning, and evolving rapidly. And personal growth is magnetism in action. People also feel more comfortable around you when you don't need constant validation. They can relax, be authentic because they are not being forced to play the role of validators. Relationships based on forced mutual approval are exhausting. Relationships where both simply are, without masks or performances, are rare and precious. Also, when you stop seeking approval, you automatically stop giving so much power to the judgment of others. Compliments don't take you to the heights, and criticism doesn't throw you into the abyss. You maintain your center, your inner peace, regardless of the emotional climate around you. This stability is a beacon in the midst of the chaos that characterizes the lives of the majority. 5. Respect your own pace. Jung had a deep understanding of the natural cycles of the human psyche. He knew that forcing growth before the right time is just as harmful as resisting evolution when it presents itself. The irresistible woman understands this intuitively. It is not at war with its own inner stations. It flows with them, respecting when it is time to expand and when it is time to collect. Our society glorifies constant productivity, incessant movement, perpetual availability. You're pressured to always be at your peak, always radiant, always producing. But nature doesn't work like that. There are moments of blooming and moments of hibernating. The moon does not shine with the same intensity every night. And you don't have to either. When you respect your natural rhythm, you stop comparing yourself to other people. Each one is in a different phase of their journey. Comparison is stealing joy because it completely ignores the unique context of each walk. The woman who honors her own time does not feel the need to chase external milestones of success that make no sense to her soul. This also applies to relationships. There is a correct rhythm for intimacy to deepen, trust to be built, love to mature. When you force artificial acceleration, you create fragile structures that collapse easily. But when it allows things to unfold at the right time, it builds solid foundations that sustain any storm. Respecting your rhythm also means recognizing your limits without guilt. You can't do everything. It should not be available to everyone. It cannot meet all expectations. And that's okay. The magnetic woman does not beat herself up trying to be superhuman. She is deeply human, and that makes her accessible and real. Jung spoke about the importance of honoring the cycles of psychological death and rebirth. There will be times in your life where old versions of you need to die in order for new ones to emerge. This process cannot be rushed. It requires time, introspection, and patience with yourself. Trying to skip these phases is to miss the essential learnings they carry. When you respect your own pace, you also develop deep compassion for your failures and downfalls. You understand that stumbling is part of the process. He does not brutally punish himself for not being where he imagined he would be. Instead, he recognizes where he is now, accepts without resistance, and continues walking at his pace, not at anyone else's pace. This posture brings a tranquility that is extremely attractive. You are not desperate, anxious, or constantly dissatisfied because you have not reached a certain milestone in the imaginary timeline. You are present in your journey, appreciating each phase for what it offers in terms of learning and growth. And genuine presence is magnetic. In addition, respecting your rhythm protects your mental and physical health. The burnout that so many women experience comes from years of ignoring signals from the body and mind asking for rest. The irresistible woman hears these whispers before they turn into screams. She rests without guilt, celebrates without moderation, cries when she needs to, and laughs whenever she can. 6. It's authentic, not perfect. Jung revolutionized psychology by proposing that true mental health is not in the absence of problems, but in the ability to integrate them into the whole of the personality. The magnetically irresistible woman embodies this principle in a visceral way. She's not trying to design a filtered and edited version of herself. She simply exists, with all the contradictions, imperfections, and complexities that make her human. Authenticity scares a lot of people because it requires tremendous courage. It's much easier to wear masks, to play roles, to say what others want to hear. But these survival strategies come at a very high cost. You lose touch with who you really are. And when you don't know who you are, you live eternally unsatisfied, always feeling that something fundamental is missing. Being authentic means expressing your real feelings, even when they are inconvenient. It means standing up for your beliefs, even when they're not popular. It means making choices that align with your values, even when the world is going in the opposite direction. Each time you do this, you strengthen your sense of identity and presence in the world. The authentic woman is not afraid to be vulnerable. Jung understood vulnerability not as weakness, but as the courage to show oneself fully. When you allow yourself to be seen in all your imperfect humanity, you create space for deep and real connections. People get tired of superficiality. They long for something true. Authenticity also means admitting when you don't know something. Recognize when you made a mistake. Apologizing when you've hurt someone. These admissions do not diminish you, they make you three-dimensional. Perfection is flat, monotonous, predictable. Authenticity has texture, depth, surprises, and it's infinitely more interesting. Another powerful aspect. The authentic woman does not change her personality depending on who she is with. She is not one person with family, another with friends, another at work. There is coherence. You can trust that who she is today will be who she is tomorrow. This consistency breeds deep trust, which is one of the cornerstones of any meaningful relationship. Being authentic also means honoring your unique preferences, even when they are different from the majority. You like what you like, not what you are told you should like. Your quirky tastes, your unconventional opinions, your weird passions are exactly what makes you memorable. Everyone can be generic. Few have the courage to be specific. Jung observed that the process of individuation takes us further and further into our singular essence, moving us away from collective conformity. The woman who embraces this process automatically becomes fascinating because there is no one exactly like her. It is not a copy, a version, an imitation. It is original, and originality is rare and precious. Also, when you're authentic, you attract the right people and repel the wrong ones automatically. You don't have to fake it to maintain relationships that don't fit. Those who can't handle their authenticity simply walk away, leaving room for those who appreciate you exactly as you are. That's relational efficiency at the highest level. 7. Trust your intuition. For Jung, intuition was one of the 4 fundamental psychological functions of the human being. He recognized that beyond logic and reason, there is a form of knowledge that comes from deep layers of the unconscious. The irresistibly magnetic woman does not ignore this inner voice. She has learned to trust that whisper that often knows things that the rational mind has not yet been able to process. How many times have you felt something about a person or situation, ignored it because it didn't make logical sense, and then found out that your first instinct was absolutely right? Intuition picks up subtle patterns, barely perceptible inconsistencies, energies that cannot be explained but are absolutely real. To dismiss this is to cut off access to a precious source of wisdom. The woman who trusts her intuition makes decisions faster and more assertively. She is not paralyzed in the excessive analysis of each situation. He can sense when something is right and when it is wrong, even without being able to list logical reasons. This gives you an immense advantage in navigating relational complexities and life choices. Jung said that intuition is especially strong in psychological types that develop this function, but we all have access to it. The problem is that modern education privileges rational thought so much that it systematically suppresses intuition. Regaining this ability requires conscious practice of listening to the body's signals, the unexplained feelings, the inexplicable warnings. When you trust your intuition, you also develop a deeper relationship with yourself. You learn to differentiate between neurotic fear and genuine alertness, between superficial desire and the call of the soul, between what you think you should want and what you really want. This inner clarity is liberating and magnetic. Intuition also protects you. That strange feeling about someone you just met may be picking up on something that won't reveal itself until months later. That inexplicable impulse to turn down a seemingly perfect opportunity may be saving you from a path that wasn't meant for you. Trusting these signs requires courage, because you can't prove anything to anyone. Another powerful benefit: intuition accelerates your personal growth tremendously. Instead of having to live every mistake to learn, you can anticipate pitfalls and make course corrections sooner. Not because someone told you, but because something inside you knew. This inland navigation capability is a huge competitive advantage in life. The woman who honors her intuition also inspires confidence in others. There's a solidity in someone who knows, who isn't constantly swinging between outside opinions. People naturally seek out those who seem to have access to a reliable internal compass, and you become that person when you stop systematically doubting yourself. Jung warned that ignoring intuition consistently has serious psychological consequences. You disconnect from deep parts of yourself. You lose access to creativity, to insights, to understandings that emerge from the unconscious. The irresistible woman keeps this channel open, constantly dialoguing between reason and intuition to make integrated and wise decisions. 8. Says no when you need to. The latter habit may seem simple, but it is revolutionary in its application. Jung understood that healthy psychological boundaries are essential to the integrity of the ego. The magnetically irresistible woman is not afraid to say no. She understands that every yes said out of obligation, guilt, or fear is a betrayal of herself. And the more you betray yourself, the less genuine presence you have. Our socialization as women often teaches us to be complacent, not to disappoint, to always put other people's needs before our own. This creates exhausted, resentful, and empty women. The magnetic woman has broken this conditioning. She recognizes that she can't serve everyone, and that trying to do so is the fastest way to burnout. Saying no sets clear boundaries about what you accept and what you don't accept in your life. It teaches people how to treat you. When you never say no, people learn that they can do anything and you'll stay available. But when you demonstrate that there are lines that cannot be crossed, respect comes naturally. A well-placed no also increases the value of your yeses. If you say yes to everything, your yeses mean nothing. But when people know that you're selective, that you evaluate carefully before committing your time and energy, a yes from you becomes precious. This completely inverts the power dynamics in relationships. Jung talked about the importance of honoring one's psyche, of not forcing the self into situations that violate its essential nature. Every time you say yes when every cell in your body is screaming no, you create internal conflict. This conflict manifests itself as anxiety, irritation, a feeling of living someone else's life. No reconnects you with your truth. The woman who says no when she needs to is also not excessively justified. She understands that it is not a complete motive in itself. You shouldn't have elaborate explanations about why you don't want to do something. This compulsion to justify comes from programmed guilt. But when you're centered in yourself, a simple and firm one isn't enough. Plus, saying no gives you the time and space to say yes to what really matters. You have finite energy. When you waste it on obligations that don't make sense, there's nothing left for your dreams, your passions, the people you really love. The magnetic woman is fiercely protective of her time and energy because she knows they are her most precious resources. This habit also filters relationships. People who don't respect their no's immediately reveal themselves as problematic. They pressure, manipulate, try to make you feel guilty. These are exactly the people who need to be out of your life. Yours does not work as a test of someone else's character. Those who really love you respect your limits. Jung observed that women with weak boundaries often attract unbalanced relationships where they are constantly disrespected. But when you demonstrate through consistent actions that there are consequences to crossing your boundaries, you automatically raise the bar for how you will be treated. This is not selfishness. It is healthy and necessary self-preservation. Finally, saying no when you need to teaches you something fundamental. You can disappoint people and survive. The world does not fall apart. People don't abandon you en masse. And the ones who drop out are exactly the ones who were in your life for the wrong reasons. This learning is liberating and transforms you into a truly free woman, self-possessed, magnetic in her unshakable authenticity.